everybody. I hope that you're all doing well. In the pre-shuffle, I was seeing what looked like a situation where you may like to be in charge of where the pieces are going, and the situation may not necessarily be allowing that for right now. It feels like you have to kind of let things unfold in the way that they're going to, in the timing that it's going to, but this can feel frustrating because it's not usually the way that you approach this particular situation. We're starting off with Five of Cups and also the Chariot, which feels like overcoming situations that are not going as expected, and rather than getting stuck there, to continue working through it. So it shows emotional work that's being done right now, to feel what you're feeling and also to move through it and to work with the energy. But I do get something going on that you could have been feeling upset about. You can still feel that way. However, the story does continue, and this shows exactly that there's movement after that point. You can feel disappointed with the way that something came together or maybe failed to come together. That can be it too. One of the more challenging pieces of this can be to express yourself, or to be seeing this clearly and also not being reactive to this. When I think about reactivity in a scenario like this, it would be like doing something that once you've sort of settled in to this, you wouldn't do. So being reactive would be to react to something that you're feeling, and then later on, when you're not feeling things in such a heightened way, be like, I would have handled that differently. So this feels like instead of having to do that, there is I'm like handling things now, I'm not reacting, I'm trying to respond appropriately, but there can be something difficult about that, and it feels too like, if there's somebody involved in this where communication is part of it, there can be something about like not communicating in a harsh way, not communicating in a like reactive type of way, but still articulating what you need to articulate if communication is part of this. If communication is not part of this, this can just be about being rational. It can be about seeing things clearly, staying level-headed when it can actually feel more difficult to do this. Because I'm seeing like we're starting with water energy, we're ending with water energy. This is something that can elicit feelings within you, and there's no issue with that. It's about, and we also don't have control over that, right? Like you feel how you feel about it. That's not something that we can do anything besides like accept or not accept how it is that we're feeling, but we don't really get to say how we're going to feel about something. It just, that's what comes up, but you do have control over what it is that you do with it. And so this feels like having something come up, having it feel like probably unpleasant with this, and then not being reactive within the space, that feeling like the most challenging thing to do here, but there being a reason why there's a need to stay grounded. And in trying to anchor this, you know when you feel a lot and instead of reacting, you are transmuting the energy so you get tired? I see something like that that's going on. Like this thing may have kind of wiped your motivation a little bit. It could have given you a sinking type of feeling. So that can also be something that you're working with too. Like this thing happened, it can maybe feel like a big turnoff now at this point. So you can be maneuvering through that part currently. Maybe you also didn't like something that happened, like preferred that it happened differently. You could have also felt hurt. You could have had your feelings hurt. I'm seeing there be a working to heal this, though. That's happening, but this feels probably like, I don't know, for you to say how you feel and be able to get that across. I'm seeing Three of Swords connected with King of Swords. Maybe there's something about your throat chakra that's really a big focus here. I think it's too about like showing up and how do you handle things when you're feeling pain, and how to communicate, how to advocate clearly, how to express yourself clearly in challenging circumstances. Because you know, when everything's fine, it's not so difficult necessarily to communicate what you need to communicate. What about when there's tension in the environment? What about when there's upset in the environment? What about when there's pain or hurt feelings in the environment? How are you performing then in those moments? So there can be something that's being worked with here, and there being a hope to kind of set things right even. Some of you could have felt like you got rejected in some way too. Four of Cups can sometimes be connected with that. Or it can be like not being considered, something like that. Or not liking the circumstance at least. There will be something that feels unfavorable. But you could have been, I mean, King of Swords, Nine of Swords can be feeling scared to speak up because of what might happen if you do so. And if that's not the case, this can also manifest as a big feeling of concern about what's going to be happening. So you can feel worried about what's going to be unfolding. And where things are going to be going, especially. I feel for a lot of you like you're working with at least one other person. But there's a question mark, I think, on where things are going to go. I don't know if that's like just anxiety talking, or if there's really a place that things could go that, I don't know, maybe it's just the unknown that's connected with all of this, why you're feeling the way that you're feeling. Like this can even be about like having to bring something up that feels difficult to bring up, communicating at a challenging time, not knowing what's going to happen. Also too, if you're like learning how to speak up for yourself, this can be something that you're figuring out. Like when something happens, to be able to communicate and express yourself clearly, but there can also be a fear of the like maybe consequences of that. And this can be something that you're currently working with. I'm seeing there be this, like, I don't want the past to repeat itself. I'm feeling drained right now. Four of Cups, Ten of Wands, these are cards that indicate feeling overworked. It can be emotionally exhausted. You can feel energetically spent. We have Three of Swords, which is still an issue that's going on within the environment. Having Six of Cups there, this can be mixed with different things connected with your past coming up. I don't know where things are going to go. Having the Nine of Swords is going to be this anxiety that you can be feeling. So there's a lot of stuff that's going on. Feels like a lot of internal stuff that's happening, and this feels like the trigger of this is something that went on that went differently than you thought it was going to, what you like planned for in your head. And now, because of the kind of like surprise that comes with that, you can be feeling concerned about what's going to be happening now. I get stuff about your past definitely being intertwined in this. I'm seeing Cancer, and I'm also seeing Virgo. And I'm seeing a King of Swords and a King of Cups. How do you come back together with yourself at a time like this? You working through things on the emotional front can feel like it's really challenging to do right now, and it feels like there's a lot of stuff from your past that's coming up that has to be worked with. I'm seeing also a lot of thinking that's happening, and if you're working with another person, there can possibly be a lull in the conversation because you and or the other person are kind of going into a period of thinking about things. If this is all of your energy, if we're seeing it from that perspective, King of Swords being connected with Hermit can be that you feel like you need to go into a little period of silence to be able to think about things and really reflect on how it is that you're feeling, and also kind of come up with a clear strategy of how to move through this. And then once you pop out on the other side of it, it feels like a steadiness that I'm seeing here, where you know how to proceed and what to do. Some of you can be having a new chapter that's popping up where it's connected with your past in some way, whether this be like you're traveling to somewhere that feels familiar, or you're reconnecting with somebody in a different way. It's going to be something along the lines of this, or you can even be like working with memories from your past or emotions from your past. That can be something too. For some of you, I am seeing somebody coming up. This can also have to do with family for some of you too. That can be part of this as well. I feel like you're in the process of like reconciling things on the emotional front, but in a lot of ways, even though I'm seeing a new chapter starting, I'm seeing a lot of stuff that has to do with past events that are coming up now to be processed. So this doesn't even though like technically it's a new chapter that's forming, it feels like all of the ingredients that you're working with are past ingredients, but it's happening now. It's like ingredients that stuff that you already experienced that's being worked with now. And maybe it was like even put in a box and wasn't being worked with. And instead of going out and like having a new experience in real time, this feels like going under your bed and pulling that box out and being like, I almost forgot about this here. And like, that's the new chapter that you're working on, but it's with like old material energetically. And that can mean too that it has some sort of relevance to something currently that's going on within your life right now too. Having Four of Cups and having Ace of Pentacles is like, you have this new chapter that's starting based off of what you've been through. You cannot be feeling the most energized right now. But I do see things end up going in a direction where it looks like stuff stabilizes. And I am seeing you get through a difficult time. Like this chapter, I'm seeing that this is a chapter of healing that's happening, where there's a lot of stuff associated with fears that you're working through. 9 of Swords and 9 of Wands, all to kind of develop what you're wanting to develop right now. But yeah, having 3 of Swords and having Ace of Pentacles, as much as it can feel painful to address this stuff, that's also going to be the key to healing these things. And having 4 of Cups can be like not feeling the most motivated to be working through this, because you can feel spent based off of what you've already gone through. But then having the Chariot, it's like finding ways to figure it out, like finding ways to motivate yourself, finding ways to reconnect with your energy, finding ways to find it within you to move through this process successfully, to do the healing that needs to be done, and to also work with the parts of yourself that have a hard time. I'm feeling an activation on the left side, like along my arm here. So part of working through this is working with the stuff going on in your head. And I think that's actually a huge, huge, huge part of this. Like 9 of Swords and 9 of Wands is feeling very significant to me, because I think actually the hardest part about all of this is you working with the stations that you're tuned to, because I'm seeing one very loud station that is not the most productive that you get connected with. that you're in the process of learning how to work with that. So this can be your biggest anxieties, your biggest fears that come up, stuff about you learning how to express yourself, where you can feel like stuff happens with your throat chakra. So this is a throat chakra clearing that's happening too. You can be doing breath work to help you out with this. Also too, if you meditate and visualize blue, that's something you like look up at the sky, take a walk. These are things that can help you with the energy. Any type of movement too, like softer movement, that can be helpful as well, like stretching and whatnot. I think that this asks a lot of you energetically, but rather than it being like asking a lot of you physically, I see it more the inside stuff, like what's going on in your internal world. That's where it's asking a lot of you. And having us start off with the zodiac sign of Cancer. Cancer can be familial stuff, it can be ancestral things, anything going on emotionally, anything within your heart, anything that you are feeling, anything going on intuitively, anything going on mentally too. And then having Hermit. Hermit is a sign connected with, Hermit's connected with Virgo, and when I think of Virgo, especially in a context like this, it feels overall like healing that's happening. So it's going to be a healing of these things. And Hermit is also the part of you that is going to be able to look at things and understand what needs to be fixed, what needs to be changed, what needs to be worked on in order for you to accomplish the goal of moving through this. And this can also be to get to a place where you're feeling at peace emotionally and you're feeling stable emotionally. You feel like you're kind of back at your baseline in a way that feels actually peaceful when you're sitting within yourself here, like when you're settled in. So regardless of whatever else is going on around you, I think that that's actually the end goal of this, like what's being worked towards right now. So yeah, I think overall, like a lot of stuff from your past can be coming up right now, but it's relevant because this is unprocessed stuff that's meant to be worked with right now. And having 5 of Cups, having 4 of Cups, this can be stuff that you don't really like to touch, because it hurts, you know, the process of healing. We have to clean things out. We have to do what we need to do. You know, sometimes if something is broken and then it's trying to heal, but it's skewed, you have to re-break it so it's set the right way. You know, it can be things like this that are going on the energetic front that you are working through, but it's like a healing type of pain. There's a difference between the pain that is something being like split apart versus a healing type of pain, and this is a process that is a healing type of pain that you're moving through, but it can just be difficult at times, understandably. When you face this stuff, it brings up all of the things that by avoiding accepting situations for what they are, you can also put off experiencing the pain. So this is why it can be difficult to motivate ourselves to move through it, because you have to feel everything in order to move through. And by not having to come to terms with things, we don't have to experience the pain of reality. So it's getting to that point where these things are being faced. It's always funny and tricky the way that things work. You know, when we have 5 of Cups energy, it's not fun to be sitting in that energetically, but what it does do is postpone us having to feel the things that we feel that feel difficult to feel. But that is the key to liberation. This seems like one of those practices as well that it may not feel like the most enjoyable, but you know it's the best thing for you, and so you're willing to work through it for that reason. Like that's the thing that gets you through this, is knowing this is in your best interest to be doing. And I'm seeing you gain also a lot of insight. But it can be something where you feel very tempted throughout the process to give up on it just because of how challenging it is. But I think you really want the results of this, which is ultimately going to be you feeling at peace in a way that we do not start off feeling like that, but it will end with that. The hardest part about this, well, one of the difficult parts about this is doing the reflective work that needs to be done that's connected with this. So that means like actively processing things. Because going into hermit mode isn't just like sitting there and worrying about stuff or thinking about things and like going in circles. Hermit mode is when you kind of lay everything out in front of you, you start connecting the dots, you gain clarity. Like the goal of being in hermit mode is that once you emerge from it, things have been made clear to you that were not clear before. You see things that you didn't see before. You understand things. You basically, going into hermit mode is what connects you with your higher self. So anything that is creating static on the line, it is about dispelling that so you could just hear your connection with yourself loud and clear. That's what hermit mode is going to do. So that's how you'll know that you're effectively going into hermit mode, because it's going to achieve that for you. And it's something about stuff that's been going on emotionally that you're going to gain clarity on, that you already have been moving through, but it's going to give you even more of a sense of what you're feeling and intuitively what's going on and what the guidance is as well. But that also means in order to go into hermit mode and have it be effective, we have to be open to the truth. Because if you're not open to the truth, and if you don't want to change things, you don't want to listen, you're going to go into hermit mode and come out. You can feel more confused. You can feel frustrated. You can feel like there just aren't answers. And it can be because we're not open to what we already know. Which could have been what was happening before and maybe a little bit different now. I'm seeing something, but I feel like it would have come out more clearly if it was meant to be spoken on. Something that's being pointed out is where pain is meant to be redirecting you. Where it can even feel annoying that there's pain involved in a situation, but I'm actually seeing that it's meant to be guiding you and helping you. So it's kind of like a bumper. So it's like when you bang into that, it's supposed to hurt on purpose, because there's somewhere there's a path that you're meant to be walking on. And when you get off of that, it's kind of like an electric fence that's meant to put you back. So I'm seeing it's meant to be helping. I'm getting this thing in my arm again. It feels like an activation of energy. I see like 50% through the way of this process, but I'm also seeing stuff going on that's still blocking. So I'm not seeing you move, like you could technically be moving through this more quickly, but there can be a lot of mental activity that's going on where there's a lot of resistance to anything connected with resistance to allowing things to unfold in the way that they're going to, resistance to changes that are unfolding. And this doesn't even feel like you needing to step in and do all of this stuff. This feels like you just tuning in and listening and then following the path. There's like resistance to that because you're like, where is this taking me? So I see a lot of stopping that's been happening because you may not feel trusting. But the point of also too going into hermit mode is that when you do this, it reconnects you with your spirit in a way where you trust what's unfolding, the cosmic unfolding of things. Some of you, you're going to be leaving a situation that you can be having a really hard time doing because it can be something that you like outsourced your power to this thing. This is a message that I've been seeing a lot the last 2 days about I see this thing that's being worked through that we're not at the point really to call it out in a clear way, even though I can see what's going on. But as far as what's being communicated through the reading, you already worked through the beginning of the process. You're in the middle of it right now. And it feels like the energy is encouraging me not to say what the end result is going to be, only because you can kind of already know that, and that may be like a block for you because it may be something where you think that you don't want that right now. That may be part of it, or there's a resistance to that. So I'm seeing you be in the middle of a process right now, and even though I'm seeing where this is going, at the same time I feel like it's not being said explicitly because it may be something where if you will just focus on the steps ahead of you, that's what's going to end up happening. But it feels like if it's talked about explicitly now, it may be something that you hear, you have your own preconceived notions about that, and then it's going to be like regressive, so you'll run in the opposite direction. Having 10 of Cups be the thing that's on the bottom of the deck, this is about you following a path where when you are there and you're not resisting anymore, you are going to feel so lit up, you're going to feel so connected, you're going to feel so in tune. You will feel like you are totally tapped into the rhythm of things in a way where right now you're not totally hearing all of it right now. It's like the volume being very, very low, so you can hear it a little bit, but it's going to get louder and louder and louder the more that you walk through this. But I do get some stuff that's coming up that if you had no preconceived notions about things, I feel like it would all be explicitly put out there. But because you can have ideas about where you think that you're supposed to be and what you think is supposed to be happening and what you believe is going to be best for you in all of this, it feels like that's why it's not being explicitly stated. So you just pay attention to what's right in front of you and you walk accordingly, and then everything will unfold in the way that it needs to. And in a way that you will feel happy with what ends up unfolding. That is in your best interest. All right, my friends, we are going to leave the reading here. I would like to thank everyone for connecting and tuning in. I'm sending everybody love, and I hope to catch you guys next time.